So if you were to describe filtered water to just regular water to a person in the Renaissance era, they would not know what you're talking about. Filtered water came at the turn of the century in the industrial era. If you were to then explain what light was into, like, natural light is from the sun, and then unnatural light is of course from a light bulb. Explaining this would be a thing that modern day we get a grasp of, but if there was a different subset of information when your computer's projection on the screen and its hardware underneath its modem, if in the future there was something comparable to those and we didn't know. Just when something is breaking and it is lagging and short-circuiting, I think perhaps it's like not bad. It could be more of just like how when you're breaking in a shoe, you would like a shoe that's like worn more, so it's more user-friendly. I think it's the same with electronic equipment crapping out. It's just there isn't a strong enough frame to deduct different modifications of. Do you know what would make something infinity clear? Is if we could see accuracy of the atomic realm with our bare eyes. Now that might be impossible, but one thing that isn't is knowing the consequence of the actions. You know what action defines the molecular atomic realm, the micro, is the double slit experiment. This would be two slits and a screen. A particle goes through one of the slits, ends up on the screen in bars. Bars as if it were shot through both slits. The importance of what I just said is nothing short of a Mandela effect. It's just a gauge that assimilates. This is what quantum electric dynamic theory is, of course, trapezoidal, but they can't combine the trapezoids to make polygons, and especially not over atoms. But that's that precision that you need to explain this gray area of the difference of action from humans to land. Because the moment you swap the two, it's like saying one shoe fits all, and you're saying we're no different being cremated or being alive. The components of your body having much to do with nothing but a thermodynamic. So this tuning fork and a Mandela effect are like life jackets and space suits. And so that's why I think it's really interesting. And that's why what's so interesting is when electricity is a particle of a photon's always traveling from the past. When you have that inside a computer and you're thinking of it as like a well and water going through it to end up on the display screen, you almost have to like make it into a giant like puzzle, or not so much a puzzle, more so just like a maze. And so in denoting that, it's inclusive of Doppler shiftings, of course air pressure, because the photons inside of a computer are always like cooling with the wires. And so that in accordance with a Mandela effect, how there's a scope of what's focused when it comes to a projection, meaning like if you have a dividend between the pixels on a screen and what's going on underneath the hood of the RAM power of the microchips and then the wires, that could be a Mandela effect between the two. And that's real significant. The significance of that are between a quantum solid and a non-Newtonian fluid. Double slit experiment, if there was a Mandela effect being projected, decrypting on the screen, instead of the two double slits where particles are shot through, it's just two prongs of a tuning fork. I think there's something there. And I'm not trying to be poetic, because you can be a romantic and end up in a bad place. And I'm the last person who wants to get intimate with anyone's relation. What does that even mean? Patents. This is what I think they're kind of like in the hands of the corruption now, because it's only people who are affording them are these designers of corporations, federal. You know, what person is a normal one who has a patent of a substance that they've created? Not a whole bunch. Can't say I know anyone of that nature. And when you're claiming how like the entire world is a atmosphere, that if it were a surface, the tension of stuff in a kaleidoscope, it's got a whole bunch of glittery rocks inside of a capsule, and you twist them around and they actually come out symmetric due to a Mandela effect. Now it's a specific distance that an eye hole is away from it. It utilizes I'm thinking a blind spot. And so we all have blind spots, as how we see, if you didn't know. This is fantastic, because in Newtonian physics, you put anything on a surface, that surface actually is being bent in its middle. So the information is conserved. The more that you turn around those glitter rocks inside that capsule, all those bends is actually within the projection that you're viewing. And I want to relate this to a black hole. And in black holes, everything is destroyed, spaghettified to a singularity. But the information is conserved, and that was a big plot point in how our universe is handled and understanding it. Actions on the land different than human actions. The more that they're correlated together, its misinterpretation can have drastic detriments. You know, a polygon could go on an atom. Atoms are circular, but their cloud of electrons about them could be drawn out with polygon after polygon, an arrangement around them. And atoms have an 8-octet rule, so the electrons around an atom favor 8, because then they would make a shell above to get striving to achieve another 8 electrons around the other orbital of a new level. But then the electrons are always trying to go down a level to the first orbital. And so in drawing like polygons around an atom, that would be like favorable. And so then the inquisition of drawing a polygon around the outside of it, as well as on the inside of it, one or the other, it could be pretty unique. And how cells reading time. I think cells read time so much to the point where it's of thermodynamics. So they're in tune with how much thermodynamics are, I think, is like the most reality has to offer. Which will be a lot, because you can ascribe these polygons because the atoms, electrons are always popping in and out of existence, and they're infinitely small. So, you know, it's not to say that there's a limit on what reality could encumber, because at any given moment in time, that's quite a diagram. And so, in the land, all the people would love to go green. And this is a thing where, sure, there's two ways of doing it that are common, but they're not good enough. They're barely a thing that's reasonable. So it's like solar energy, and you can get back your rebate, but if you have the whole electric grid with solar panels, it would go down in a matter of minutes. The second way is drilling into the earth and getting heat from the drilling. I think that devices that are electronic should be like, there should be a whole bunch of these safeguards on it where you can read and depict how it is going out, like with the battery going down, or an off switch getting like perforated to the point where it's lagging a bit. Like when you close and open a laptop, if you have its hinge broken, it's like in between a state every time you open and close it, because it has a different angle of an off switch. Stuff like this can get, I believe, capitalized on, and just